He said he was working late again, but his car was parked outside another woman's house. Before I tell you everything, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you love stories of betrayal, survival, and revenge. It costs nothing, but it helps me share these journeys with you. The first time I noticed something was wrong was not when Daniel skipped visiting me at the hospital. It was the silence. The kind of silence that does not comfort you but gnaws at you, making the room feel colder than it really is. The ticking clock on the wall was louder than his absence. I had been admitted after a minor complication from surgery. Nothing life-threatening, but still serious enough that I had needed, my husband by my side. Instead, I got texts. Busy with a client dinner. Big project coming up. Don't worry about me, focus on resting. Tomorrow, I'll be there. Tomorrow never came. I stared at the hospital ceiling, the sterile smell of disinfectant filling my lungs. I had supported Daniel through every late night, every stressful quarter, every sleepless week. I was his anchor, or at least, I believed I was. He had told me countless times, "We're a team, Ava. I couldn't do this without you." And for years, I clung to those words like a promise carved in stone. But promises mean nothing when the bed beside you stays empty night after night. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he truly was overwhelmed. Maybe his job as a financial consultant had consumed him. Maybe he was just tired of hospitals, the way some people are tired of funerals. They go because they have to, not because they want to. But deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. And it was growing faster than I could control. On the fourth night, as rain tapped the hospital windows, I scrolled through his messages again. That's when I saw it. A small, overlooked detail. In one of his replies, instead of texting directly, he had forwarded me a message from another number. The text had been copied awkwardly. The number did not belong to his office. I didn't recognize it. My heart stuttered in my chest. I copied the number into a search engine. Seconds later, a name popped up, Maya Torres. The coworker he had mentioned once or twice in the past. Young. Ambitious. Always pushing extra hours at the office. I remembered him speaking about her with casual admiration months ago. I had laughed it off. But now, seeing her name connected to his phone, the air in the room thickened. Curiosity turned into compulsion. I found her professional profile online, sleek, polished, full of motivational quotes. Then her social media. That's where my stomach dropped. A recent photo from a company dinner showed Maya leaning close to Daniel, laughing at something. Their shoulders touched. His hand rested too casually on the back of her chair. The caption read, "grateful for the best team ever." I zoomed in on the picture again and again. To anyone else, it might have looked harmless. But when you know someone's face as well as I knew my husband's, you catch the subtle betrayals. The softness in his eyes. The smile that used to belong to me. The phone buzzed in my hand. Another message from Daniel. "I'll visit tomorrow. I promise. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow." The nurse entered, adjusting my four with practiced calm. "Any visitors today?" she asked kindly. I forced a smile. "Not yet." She patted my arm gently. "He'll come. He's probably just busy." Busy. That word had become my prison. When she left, I pulled the blanket tighter around me, but the chill did not leave. I opened Maya's profile again. My fingers trembled as I scrolled, as if searching for proof I didn't want to find. And then, buried in her comments, I found it, a blurry photo tagged at a suburban street. In the corner, unmistakable even in the grainy light of a street lamp, was Daniel's car. I knew that car better than my own heartbeat. It was parked right outside Maya's house. My throat tightened. The sterile white walls of the hospital seemed to close in. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. But how many coincidences does it take before the truth slaps you across the face? I set the phone down, pressing my palms into my eyes until stars danced in the darkness. My mind raced. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was paranoid. But another voice, quieter yet sharper, whispered, "Or maybe you've finally seen what's been there all along." The phone buzzed again. Daniel's name lit up the screen. "I know you're upset. I'll make it up to you. Just focus on getting better." But I couldn't focus on healing when every beat of my heart screamed that I was being lied to. For the first time in 10 years of marriage, I felt like a stranger in my own life. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty: I could not stay in the dark any longer. I had to uncover the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I picked up the phone again, my hands shaking but steady enough to type the words that would change everything. "Are you with her?" The typing dots appeared, then vanished, then reappeared. My chest tightened, waiting for the answer. When the reply came, it was short, sharp, dismissive. "Of course not. Stop being paranoid." And that was when something inside me snapped. Because paranoia doesn't take pictures. Paranoia doesn't park cars in front of another woman's house. Paranoia doesn't send excuses instead of showing up. No. This wasn't paranoia. This was betrayal. And betrayal, I realized, was only the beginning. I stared at the screen, Daniel's words echoing in my mind like a slap. "Of course not. Stop being paranoid." It was the same dismissive tone he always used when I asked about his late nights, the same deflection he wielded like a shield. For years, I had convinced myself that his sharp replies were just stress. But now, with the evidence sitting in my hand, they cut differently. They weren't shields. They were weapons. I put the phone on the tray beside my bed, but my body wouldn't rest. My fingers itched, my chest burned. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Something inside me, the part that had been patient, forgiving, endlessly understanding, was dying. In its place, a new voice rose. A voice that demanded answers. The hospital walls felt like they were closing in. Every beep of the monitor tethered me to a version of myself I didn't recognize anymore, the loyal wife waiting quietly for scraps of affection. But I wasn't that woman now. Not after seeing Maya's smile next to Daniel's car. I opened his messages again. Each one read like a script, too neat, too polished. "Don't worry about me. Big project coming up. Tomorrow." Over and over, like lines rehearsed in front of a mirror. A man covering tracks, not a husband offering comfort. I couldn't stop myself. I searched deeper. I scrolled back through weeks of conversations, looking for gaps, strange absences. And there they were, weekends where he claimed to be out of town for client meetings. Nights when he swore he was at the office, yet had sent me no late-night photos or proof. They all lined up with Maya's posts, office parties, conferences, even casual coffee shop selfies. She was always in them. And more often than not, Daniel was somewhere in the background. My stomach twisted. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? I thought back to the early days of our marriage. How he used to surprise me with flowers. How he once drove 2 hours in the middle of the night just because I said I couldn't sleep. How he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. When had that man disappeared? When had he become someone who thought excuses were enough to replace presence? The nurse walked in again, carrying my dinner tray. "You should eat," she said softly, placing the tray on my table. "I'm not hungry," I muttered. Her eyes lingered on me. Nurses can read more than vitals. They see the truths people try to hide. She didn't push, but she hesitated, as if she wanted to ask more. Instead, she said, "Sometimes healing takes more than medicine." Then she left. Her words stuck with me. Healing. What was I healing from? The surgery? Or the shattering of my marriage? The tray sat untouched as I picked up my phone again. My hands shook, but I pushed past the fear. I clicked on Maya's most recent photo and scrolled through the comments. One caught my eye, *, "Dinner was amazing last night. You two make a great team." *, It was from one of Daniel's colleagues. Dinner. Last night. While I lay in this hospital bed, waiting for him. I couldn't breathe. I clutched the blanket, pulling it tight around me, but the cold inside wouldn't leave. My mind screamed, *, "Do something. Don't sit here like a victim, *. So I did. I opened my notes app and started typing. I wrote down every detail, the dates, the lies, the screenshots, the subtle overlaps between his excuses and her posts. It wasn't just paranoia. It was evidence. A record of betrayal building piece by piece. But writing it down wasn't enough. I needed confirmation. Something undeniable. Something that would silence his gaslighting when he called me paranoid. My hands trembled as I typed a new message to him. "Where are you right now?" The typing dots appeared. Then his reply came almost instantly. "Office. Late night again. I'll be home tomorrow." Tomorrow. Again. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I didn't believe him, not for a second. And now I knew exactly what to do. I dialed my sister, Leah. She picked up on the second ring, her voice warm with concern. "Ava. Are you okay? How's the recovery?" I hesitated. For a moment, shame flooded me. I didn't want to say it out loud. Saying it made it real. But Leah had always been my anchor, the one person who never sugarcoated the truth. "I think Daniel's lying to me," I whispered. "I think he's with someone else." Silence. Then a sharp inhale. "What did he do?" I told her everything, about the texts, the number, the photos, the car. My voice cracked halfway through, but I forced myself to keep going. When I finished, Leah's voice was steady, hard. "Ava, he's cheating. You know it. You've known it for days. You just didn't want to admit it." Tears burned my eyes. Hearing it from someone else made it cut deeper. "You need proof," she continued. "Solid proof. If he's at the office like he says, fine. But if his car is at Maya's again, then you'll know. I'll drive by her street. Tonight." "No," I whispered, panic rising. "It's too dangerous." "It's not dangerous," she said firmly. "It's clarity. And you deserve clarity." I pressed the phone to my chest after we hung up, my heart racing. What if she found nothing? Would I look foolish, paranoid, broken? But what if she found his car again? What if the truth was undeniable? The minutes crawled by, each one heavier than the last. The rain outside turned into a downpour, rattling against the hospital windows. I lay back, clutching the blanket, praying for an answer I wasn't sure I wanted. Finally, my phone buzzed. A text from Leah. My hands shook as I opened it. A photo appeared on the screen. Maya's street. Her porch light glowing faintly in the rain. And there, parked right in front, was Daniel's car. His license plate clear. His betrayal undeniable. My stomach dropped. The room tilted. Everything inside me shattered, then hardened into something sharp. He had lied. To my face. Again. And this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. I typed one sentence back to Leah, my fingers steady now, fueled by rage and clarity. Thank you. Tomorrow, I'll confront him. But as I hit send, my phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Daniel himself. I need to tell you something. But not over the phone. Please don't hate me. My heart lurched. What could he possibly admit now? Was he finally going to confess? Or was this another layer of lies, another attempt to control the story? I stared at the glowing screen, the words blurring in my vision. And that's when I knew, tomorrow wouldn't just be a confrontation. It would be war. Sleep never came that night. I lay awake in the hospital bed, my mind playing loops of Daniel's car outside Maya's house, of his message saying he needed to tell me something, of the hollow promises that tomorrow he would finally show up. But tomorrow had turned into a curse. It was a word he used the way a magician uses smoke, to distract, to delay, to make me believe something better was just around the corner. But when the smoke cleared, there was only absence. By morning, my body ached not from recovery but from tension. My phone buzzed at 7 a.m. sharp. Daniel again. Leaving the office early today. I'll come straight to you. Please, Ava. Just hear me out. I stared at the message, my chest tightening. After days of lies, why now? Why the sudden urgency? My instinct screamed not to trust him. Yet another part of me, the part still clinging to the memory of the man I had married, whispered that maybe, just maybe, he would finally be honest. At 10 o'clock, the door to my hospital room opened. And there he was. Daniel. His tie loosened, his shirt slightly wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot as though he hadn't slept. He looked smaller somehow, not the confident man who used to stride into any room like he owned it. But I knew better. His appearance might be tired, but manipulation wears many disguises. Hey, he said softly, as if the word could erase days of silence. I didn't answer. I only watched him, my arms crossed tightly across my chest. He stepped closer, then hesitated, sensing the wall I had built. You look better, he offered. Stronger. Cut it, I snapped. My voice surprised even me, steady, sharp, unflinching. What do you need to tell me? He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing. Ava, I know I've been distant. I know I should have been here. But things at work. Don't you dare say work, I cut in, my eyes blazing. I know where your car was last night. The color drained from his face. For the first time in years, Daniel had no ready answer. He opened his mouth, closed it, then rubbed the back of his neck the way he did when caught in a lie. You're imagining. No, I reached for my phone, tapped, and thrust the screen toward him. The photo Leah had sent me glowed between us, undeniable. Rain-soaked street, Maya's house, Daniel's car. His license plate as clear as day. His eyes widened, then narrowed. He exhaled slowly, sitting down in the visitor's chair as if the weight of the proof had crushed him. I never meant for you to see that, he muttered. The words sliced through me. Not I never did it, not it's not what it looks like, but I never meant for you to see it. My breath caught in my chest. So it's true. He buried his face in his hands. Ava, I didn't want to hurt you. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I swear, I love you. She was just a distraction. The word burned. Distraction, as if our marriage, our vows, the life we had built, could be tossed aside because he was bored. My hands trembled, but I refused to let him see weakness. How long? He looked up, guilt etched in every line of his face. 6 months. The room spun. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of me waiting up for him, of me cooking dinners that went cold, of me believing his excuses while he sat at another woman's table. I pressed my nails into my palm until I nearly broke the skin. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. Was I not enough? His eyes flickered with panic. It wasn't about you. It was me. I was stressed, I made mistakes, Stop. My voice cracked like a whip. You chose this. Don't you dare reduce it to a mistake. Mistakes are accidents. This was intentional. His mouth opened and closed, desperate for a foothold. Then he leaned forward, lowering his voice. Ava, there's more. It's not just about her. There are things I've been hiding, things at work. I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you. There it was again, the hint of something larger, something beyond infidelity. The shadow that had crept into his messages when he said he couldn't protect me anymore. My heart raced, torn between wanting to know and fearing the truth. What things? I demanded. He shook his head. Not here. Not now. I just need you to trust me. I laughed bitterly, the sound foreign even to my own ears. Trust? You destroyed that the moment you stepped into her house. His shoulders sagged. Please, Ava. Don't give up on us. I'll end it with her. I'll fix this. I'll make everything right. I looked at him then, not as my husband, but as a man who had traded honesty for convenience. He wasn't begging for my forgiveness. He was begging to preserve the life he had built on my loyalty. A life he had already poisoned. You can't fix what you broke, I whispered. The silence stretched. His jaw clenched, his hands fisted. For a flicker of a moment, the softness in his eyes hardened into something else, resentment. Control slipping from his fingers. He stood abruptly. You're overreacting. We can talk when you're calmer. Calmer. The word struck me like ice. I had caught him, confronted him, and still he dared to paint me as irrational. As he turned toward the door, something in me shifted. I wasn't just his wife anymore. I was his reckoning. You're right about one thing, I said quietly, my voice steady. There is more. And I'll find it, with or without you. He froze, his back rigid. Then, without another word, he walked out. The door shut with a soft click, but the sound reverberated like a gunshot in my chest. I sat back, my body trembling. Part of me wanted to collapse into tears, but another part, the part he had underestimated, grew sharper with each breath. Daniel thought I was broken. He had no idea I was just beginning. And as the silence filled the room once again, my phone buzzed with a new message. Not from him. From an unknown number. If you know what's good for you, stop digging. My blood ran cold. The message sat on my screen like a stain. If you know what's good for you, stop digging. I read it 3 times, waiting for my pulse to slow. Fear wanted me to freeze. Pride made me want to fire back something reckless. Neither would help me now. I took a breath, saved the number, and forwarded the screenshot to Leah with 2 words. Who is this? She called immediately. Do not reply, she said. Threats are leverage. Keep them talking only if you need to, and only on your terms. My terms, I repeated, tasting the words. I had forgotten what that felt like. The nurse came in with my discharge papers. My charts were clean, I could leave that afternoon if I had someone to drive me. Leah texted back before I asked. I'm on my way at 3. Pack your things. We're not giving him an empty house to work with. I gathered the small life I'd built around the hospital bed, the book I hadn't finished, the sweater that still smelled like our laundry detergent, the phone charger Daniel had forgotten to bring. Every ordinary object felt like evidence from a life that needed labeling. While I waited, I opened my old iPad. Months ago, Daniel had signed into his work email on it to print boarding passes. I tapped the mail icon, bracing for a password prompt. Instead, a familiar load spinner appeared, and a tide of messages flooded in. I should have felt guilty. I didn't. Trust is a door you leave unlocked. He had slammed it, and now I was jimmied through the window he forgot. The inbox was the usual corporate ocean: newsletters, calendar spam, thread after thread with subject lines in all the same fonts and tones. But a name repeated in the surf: Sable Ridge Advisors, LLC. Not his firm. Not a client I recognized. I searched Sable Ridge. A dozen invoices populated: polite, professional, and wrong. Daniel's firm billed clients directly. These invoices requested payment to Sable Ridge for strategic risk assessment, pre-engagement. The amounts were neat, just below internal approval thresholds. The signature line: D. M. Keller, Engagement Manager. Daniel M. Keller. My husband. My mouth went dry. Kickbacks. Side work. Something that slid beside the rules and hoped no one checked the gap. I opened the attachments. The Sable Ridge address was a mailbox rental on East Willow. The bank routing number was for a mid-size credit union, not our usual bank. I copied everything into a folder on my iPad labeled "For Counsel," then backed it up to cloud and an external drive I kept in my overnight bag. If I had learned anything from living with Daniel's confidence, it was that confidence gets sloppy. I would not. Next, I searched Torres. Maya's name dotted calendar invites: client dinner, team debrief, site visit. When I cross-checked the dates against my message threads with Daniel, the pattern tightened like a noose. His late nights matched her team debriefs. His "don't wait up" messages aligned with restaurant reservations he'd never mentioned to me. I stared at an email from 2 weeks earlier. Sable Ridge, wire confirmation. $8,600. A note, completed per discussion. Thank you for discretion. My hands shook, but not from surgery anymore. It was a cleaner kind of tremor. My body was reorganizing itself around a fact: the man I loved had not only betrayed me, he had built a quiet business in the blind spots of his employer and our marriage. The unknown number buzzed again. Another message: last warning. I took a screenshot, saved it, and blocked the sender. They could shout into the void. I was done hearing them. At 3, Leah swept into the room with a coat over her arm and resolve in her eyes. She hugged me, then pulled back to study my face. You look different. I am, I said. Help me carry this. On the drive, rain stitched the city into gray seams. Leah kept one hand on the wheel and one on the pulse of my story. I told her about Sable Ridge, the invoices, the banking details. She whistled low. That's not cheating, she said. That's fraud with a side of romance. I should have laughed. I didn't. It gets worse, I said quietly. He said there were things he couldn't protect me from. Leah's jaw flexed. Then we fortify. Step 1, your money. Step 2, your house. Step 3, your head. My head. You don't take revenge with a shaking hand, she said. You take it with a steady one. We stopped by the bank on Maple 1st. I asked to add dual signature protection to our joint account and to receive alerts on any wire transfers. The teller, calm, practiced, explained what they could do today and what required both parties. I took what they offered and opened an account of my own, direct deposit ready for the next pay cycle. I set alerts so sensitive the app would practically breathe in my ear. From there, the phone carrier. I separated my line from the shared account, reset pins, required in-person ID for changes. The clerk, a woman with gentle eyes, handed me the new paperwork like it was a shield. "People can be surprising," she said. "The good kind and the other kind." When we reached the house, the porch light was still on from last night. A silly habit of mine, leave a light for the person coming home late. I reached up and turned it off. Inside, the house smelled faintly of his cologne. I set my bag down, acutely aware of the empty chair by the window, the framed photo from a summer neither of us could get back. Leah headed to the kitchen. "I'll make tea. You go through his office." Daniel's office door was closed but never locked. He loved boundaries, hated barriers. The room held the curated chaos of a man who believed order followed him like weather, stacked reports, a pen tray arranged like soldiers, a picture of us where my smile looked younger than I remembered feeling that day. I opened the desk drawers. Receipts, old event lanyards, a ticket stub from a concert he had told me he'd attended with coworkers. At the back of the bottom drawer, a small leather pouch. Inside, a key fob with a blue plastic tag stamped Riverlock Storage, and a locker number, 14B. A piece of tape clung to the tag, almost as an afterthought. Written in Daniel's narrow handwriting, month to month. Storage. The word tasted like dust. What do you store when you don't want it in your house? Off books files. Old electronics. Secrets you plan to claim later, or abandon quickly. I took photos of everything, then slid the pouch into my bag with a calm that surprised me. The old Ava would have confronted him first, demanded a confession face to face. The new Ava would collect and secure, then choose her battlefield. Back in the kitchen, Leah poured tea and pushed a small notepad toward me. "List," she said. 3 columns. Evidence, action, question. We filled it together. Evidence, invoices, payments, dates, storage locker, car at Maya's. Action, call an attorney in the morning, consult a forensic accountant, photograph the locker contents, notify his firm's compliance team anonymously once we had a complete picture. Question, who sent the threats? How far did his side work go? Was Maya a participant or a decoy? When we finished, the list looked less like chaos and more like architecture. I breathed easier. The doorbell rang. Leah and I froze. We weren't expecting anyone. She held up a finger and moved quietly toward the living room window, peeling the curtain back an inch. "No one," she whispered. "No car. Could be a package." The bell rang again, longer this time, followed by a deliberate knock, 3 slow raps that didn't sound like a delivery. My phone buzzed at the exact moment Leah mouthed "don't." The message was from an unknown number, different from the first. It contained a single image, our front door, taken from the walkway. The timestamp was live. Under the photo, 1 line, "We should talk." Leah typed on her phone without looking up. "I'm calling the non-emergency line," she said. "If they're still there when the patrol swings by, we'll get a name." The knocks stopped. Silence pooled around us like something waiting to be named. A moment later, a car engine turned over. Headlights swept across our ceiling, then vanished down the street. Leah exhaled. "Coward," she said. "Or messenger." I wanted to run after the car. I wanted to fling the door open and demand an answer from the night. Instead, I picked up my pen and added another line to evidence, photo of door, second unknown number. We ate toast at the counter because toast is what you eat when you need something to hold that won't break you. We talked logistics, what to pack if I needed to leave quickly, which friends knew a good attorney, which neighbor had a door camera I could ask to review. When I went back to the office to gather a few documents, I saw a thin envelope I'd missed earlier, tucked half under the laser printer. My name was on the front in Daniel's handwriting. Inside, a single page. Ava. I will explain everything. Do not open 14B without me. It will make things worse. I am trying to keep you safe. D. My skin prickled. A command dressed as care. Safety offered as a leash. Leah read the note over my shoulder and raised an eyebrow. So we definitely open 14B. We do, I said. But we don't go alone. We planned the morning like a heist we had no desire to celebrate. Arrive when the storage facility opened, photograph first, touch nothing. If anything illegal sat in that locker, we would not carry it back into my life. I gathered the last of my hospital paperwork and set it by the door. The house felt different now, not hostile, not safe, just honest. It would shelter the truth if I invited it to. It was nearly midnight when my phone buzzed again, a soft tremor on the table. I glanced down expecting Leah or a calendar alert I had forgotten to mute. It was a photo. No caption. A grainy shot from outside our house, angled through the gap in our curtains. The image showed Leah and me at the kitchen counter, 2 mugs between us, my notepad visible but unreadable. The timestamp was 10 seconds ago. Leah, I whispered, my voice already smaller than I wanted it to be. Someone's outside. She was moving before the last syllable left my mouth, lights out, phone in hand, eyes scanning the darkness while she pulled me gently away from the window. The house dropped into shadow, rain whispering atop the roof like a warning. Then came a new sound, low and unmistakable, a car door opening at the curb, followed by footsteps on our walkway, slow, unhurried, like the person on the other side of the glass believed the night belonged to them. Leah's fingers found mine and squeezed hard enough to anchor me. Stay quiet, she mouthed. Another photo lit my screen, the camera angle shifting closer, the frame of our kitchen window now a black rectangle. And then my phone rang with a number I knew by heart. Daniel. He didn't wait for hello. His voice dropped to a whisper I'd never heard him use. Ava, do not open the door. They're not there for me anymore. Daniel's voice through the phone was a whisper threaded with panic. Do not open the door. They're not there for me anymore. For a second, the words didn't make sense. I froze, staring at Leah, her hand still gripping mine, her other hand ready to dial emergency services. What do you mean not for you? I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. Just trust me, he hissed. You've been digging where you shouldn't. You need to stop. Promise me you won't go near that storage unit. My blood went cold. He knew. He knew I had found the key. My eyes flicked to the leather pouch still in my bag. The silence between us stretched until Leah reached over and hung up the call herself. He's playing you, she said firmly. If he wants you away from that locker, it's because there's something in it he can't explain. I wanted to argue, to say maybe Daniel was truly trying to protect me, but the photo still glowing on my phone, the one of us at the kitchen table taken seconds earlier, made that impossible. Whoever was outside wasn't here because of love. They were here because of something Daniel had dragged into our lives. Leah moved fast. She texted a friend in law enforcement, someone she trusted. We're going to Riverlock in the morning, she said. Backup will know where we are. If anything happens, they'll come. We didn't sleep. I lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, listening for the sound of footsteps that didn't come again. When dawn broke, pale and gray, it felt less like a new day and more like the start of a battle I hadn't agreed to fight. By 8, we were parked outside Riverlock Storage, a nondescript complex painted beige with peeling numbers. The kind of place you drive past 100 times and never notice. My hands trembled as I fit the key fob into the gate scanner. The metal doors groaned open, as if even they wanted to keep their secrets locked inside. We found Unit 14B tucked between two others, the blue tag matching perfectly. Leah scanned the lot. Empty. Too empty. Quick, she whispered. I slid the key into the padlock. It resisted, then clicked open. The roll-up door rattled as it lifted, revealing a space half the size of our garage. At first glance, it looked almost ordinary, a stack of banker's boxes, a file cabinet, a black duffel bag. But the air smelled different, like dust laced with something sharp, metallic, wrong. Leah snapped photos of everything before we touched a thing. Then, carefully, we opened the nearest box. Inside were binders, each labeled with neat dates and acronyms I didn't recognize. Contracts, invoices, copies of wire transfers. I skimmed one, Sable Ridge Advisors, client account summaries, stamped confidential. None of it should have been outside his office. My chest tightened. This wasn't just cheating. This was theft. Corporate fraud, maybe worse. We moved to the duffel bag. Leah unzipped it, and both of us recoiled. Inside were stacks of cash bound with rubber bands, 10s and 20s pressed together like bricks. At least 30 bundles. I'd never seen that much money outside of a bank vault. Jesus, Leah whispered. This isn't sloppy. This is organized. Beneath the cash was something else, a small black notebook, the cover worn at the edges. I flipped it open. Pages filled with names, phone numbers, amounts. Some crossed out, others circled. In the margin, Daniel's handwriting, delivered. Pending. Safe. My throat closed. He wasn't just dabbling. He was keeping ledgers. He was part of something alive, something breathing outside these walls. I pulled out my phone and took photos of everything, page after page, until the entire notebook was digitized. Then I tucked it back exactly as I found it. We opened the file cabinet last. The top drawer held passports, 3 of them. One was Daniel's, the others under names I didn't recognize but with photos that were his. Different haircuts, different addresses, but his face all the same. My hand shook so hard I nearly dropped it. Fake identities. Offshore accounts. It was bigger than anything I had let myself imagine. That's when my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I hesitated, then swiped it open. The message was short, but the words punched straight through me. Asterisk, you shouldn't be there. Asterisk. Leah's phone buzzed too. She glanced down, her eyes widening. They sent me the same thing. How do they know? Before she could finish, the sound of tires on gravel filled the lot. A black SUV turned the corner, slow, deliberate, its tinted windows glinting in the morning sun. They're here, Leah whispered. The SUV stopped 10 feet from us, engine idling. No one got out. Just the hum of power beneath the hood, the weight of eyes we couldn't see pressing down on us. I grabbed Leah's arm. Take the photos. Leave everything else. Now. We shoved the boxes back, pulled the door down with a crash, and slammed the lock in place. My heart hammered as we backed toward the exit, trying to look calm when every nerve screamed to run. The SUV followed, rolling at our pace, like a predator shadowing its prey. At the gate, Leah scanned the fob. The bars lifted. We drove out, the SUV waiting just long enough before peeling off in the opposite direction. A message buzzed immediately on my phone. Asterisk, last chance. Walk away. Asterisk. I stared at the words, my hands shaking on my lap. Walk away. They wanted silence. They wanted me scared enough to stop. But fear had burned into something else now, resolve. Daniel had lied. He had betrayed me. But this was his other life crashing into mine. And I wasn't walking away. Not after everything I had just seen. Because I wasn't just his wife anymore. I was the woman holding the evidence that could destroy him. The SUV's taillights disappeared into the city, but the weight of its presence lingered. My fingers clenched around the phone, knuckles white, as the message glared back at me, last chance. Walk away. Leah drove in silence, both hands tight on the wheel. Her jaw was set, her breathing shallow, like she was calculating escape routes even after the danger had passed. When we finally pulled into her driveway, she cut the engine but didn't move. They know, she said quietly. They know who you are, where you are, what you've seen. I wanted to deny it, to tell her she was wrong, but the image of our kitchen window flashed through my mind. They had been there, close enough to hear us breathing. I nodded slowly. Then the question isn't if they're watching me. It's what I'm going to do with it. Inside her house, we spread the evidence across the dining table. My phone lit up with photo after photo, invoices, wire transfers, passports, stacks of cash, the black notebook. Each image was a nail in the coffin Daniel had built for himself. But every nail I hammered down felt like one more spike driven into the quiet life I thought I had. Leah flipped through the notebook shots. These names, she said, tapping her finger against one page. I recognize a couple. Local contractors, some small-time players. But this, she pointed to a circled number, far larger than the rest. That's 6 figures, Ava. He's not playing office politics. He's running with people who can bury him. Or bury me, I thought. I pressed my palms against the table, grounding myself. The fear wanted to rise again, to wrap itself around my throat. But another emotion burned hotter, fury. For 6 months, Daniel had looked me in the eye and lied. He had kissed me goodbye in the mornings, texted me sweet nothings at night, while quietly weaving me into a web of fraud and betrayal. He had gambled with my safety without ever asking my consent. I wasn't going to be collateral damage. I'm not running, I said firmly. Not from him, not from them. Leo leaned back, studying me. Then you need a plan. A real one. Not anger, not improvisation. Strategy. The word hung in the air. Strategy. Revenge was easy to fantasize about in the dark. Strategy meant patience, discipline, and choosing the right moment to strike. I nodded. Step 1, a lawyer. Someone who knows fraud and family law. Leah's eyes narrowed. You're thinking divorce. I'm thinking survival, I said. If Daniel goes down, I'm not letting him drag me with him. I need to separate myself legally, financially, emotionally. Everything I've seen points to prison. And when that comes, I need to make sure he doesn't get to call me his wife. Leah grabbed her phone and started scrolling. I know someone. A woman who's brutal in court but discreet. She doesn't flinch at dirty clients. I'll set up a meeting. Step 2, I continued. Protection. If these people are watching, I need to make sure they understand something. I'm not powerless. I'm not silent. If anything happens to me, the evidence goes straight to the authorities. Leah's eyebrows rose. Dead man switch. Dead woman switch, I corrected, a humorless smile tugging at my lips. I spent the next 2 hours uploading everything to cloud storage. I created 3 encrypted folders, shared each one with a different trusted contact, Leah, an old friend from college who worked in IT, and my cousin who lived across the country. Each folder carried the same instructions. If I disappeared, or if I failed to check in every 48 hours, they were to send the files to Daniel's firm's compliance office, the district attorney, and the local news. The weight on my chest eased slightly with each backup. I was still in danger, but now I wasn't alone in carrying it. By late afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't an unknown number. It was Daniel. Meet me. Tonight. Cafe on 7th. Alone. My stomach tightened. He sounded desperate, like a man whose scaffolding was crumbling around him. Leah read the message over my shoulder. It's a trap, she said flatly. Or it's information, I countered. He knows I've seen the locker. He knows I won't believe another excuse. If he's reaching out, it's because he's trying to control the damage. That means he'll slip. She frowned. You want to bait him. I want to listen, I corrected. Every word he says, every lie he stumbles over, is another piece of evidence. Leah hesitated, then sighed. Fine. But you're not going alone. I'll sit in the cafe, separate table. He won't notice me. And if anything feels wrong, you walk out. That evening, I dressed simply, jeans, a jacket, nothing that made me look like the woman who used to wait up for her husband's return. I looked like someone ready for a confrontation, and in truth, I was. The cafe was nearly empty, the soft hum of the espresso machine filling the quiet. Daniel sat in the back, hunched over a cup of coffee that had gone cold. He looked up when I entered, and for a moment, I saw the man I used to know, the one who had promised me forever. But the illusion broke as quickly as it came. Ava, he said, standing too quickly. Thank you for coming. I slid into the seat across from him, my expression unreadable. Say what you need to say. He glanced around the cafe, lowered his voice. You've put yourself in danger. You don't understand the kind of people I've been working with. Then explain it to me, I said coldly. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting. I took on side projects. Off the books. At first, it was just consulting. Easy money. But then it escalated. Sable Ridge isn't just a shell company. It's a network. And once you're in, you don't just walk away. The words chilled me. So what? You dragged me into it too. His face twisted. I tried to protect you. That's why I stayed away. That's why I told you to stop digging. But now they know you've seen the files. They know you've been to the locker. I kept my voice steady. And whose fault is that? He leaned in, desperation dripping from every word. You need to leave town. Tonight. I'll give you money, enough to disappear for a while. If they think you're gone, maybe they'll back off. For a moment, the offer tempted me. Freedom. Escape. But then I saw Leah reflected in the cafe window, watching from a distance, her eyes sharp with resolve. Running would mean surrendering to his mistakes, his cowardice. I straightened my spine. No, Daniel. I'm not the one who needs to run. You are. His face hardened. For the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't fear or guilt. It was anger. Cold, controlled anger. You don't know what you're doing, he said. You think you're strong enough to take them on, but you're not. You're going to get yourself killed. I leaned forward, matching his stare. Then you should be very careful, Daniel. Because if anything happens to me, everything you've tried to hide becomes public. Every name, every number, every account. And they'll know exactly who brought them down. His jaw tightened. For once, he had no quick response. I stood, leaving him with his cold coffee and his unraveling lies. Leah followed me out without a word. In the car, my hands trembled, but not from fear. From adrenaline. From clarity. Leah glanced at me. Well? He's scared, I said. Scared enough to try to send me away. Scared enough to admit the network is real. That means I'm closer than ever. Leah nodded slowly, but her eyes lingered on me with concern. Closer to the truth, yes. But also closer to the edge. Her words followed me into the night. Because she was right. The deeper I dug, the clearer one fact became: there would be no turning back. And tomorrow, the game would shift again. The night after the cafe meeting, I couldn't shake Daniel's words, "You're going to get yourself killed." They weren't empty. They were laced with the weight of someone who had already seen what these people could do. But instead of silencing me, the threat became fuel. If I was already in danger just by knowing, then the only way out was through. Leah stayed over, refusing to leave me alone. We sat at the kitchen table again, the same table that had been photographed by strangers days before. This time it was covered with a map of the city, a legal pad full of notes, and the faces of exhaustion etched into both of us. "What's our next move?" Leah asked. "Leverage," I said firmly. "If Daniel thinks I'll fold, he's wrong. If his network thinks I'll stay silent, they're wrong too. But I can't go straight to the police yet." Leah frowned. "Why not?" "Because right now, it's just me making accusations," I explained. "If they can spin it as paranoia, as a bitter wife trying to punish her husband, then I lose. Worse, they bury it before it ever sees light. I need to hit them with proof so strong it can't be buried." The black notebook came back to mind, the names, the numbers, the cash. It was evidence, but it was dangerous evidence. If it disappeared into an evidence locker without context, Daniel's people could claim forgery, misunderstanding, anything. I needed witnesses. I needed documentation that couldn't vanish quietly. That's when the idea took root. "I'm going to expose them publicly," I said. Leah's eyes widened. "Ava, you'd be painting a target on your back." "I already am the target," I reminded her. "If I wait, I lose control. If I speak, I set the terms." Leah leaned back, folding her arms. "So how do you do it without putting yourself 6 feet under?" That question echoed long into the night. By morning, I had an answer. Step 1, I contacted the lawyer Leah recommended. Her name was Angela Price, and when she answered my call, her voice was crisp, no nonsense. I didn't share everything, just enough to pique her interest: evidence of fraud, shell companies, risk of personal danger. By the end of the conversation, she was arranging an urgent appointment for the next day. Step 2, I called an old friend, Jonah, a journalist at an investigative outlet. Years ago, I had helped him through a rough patch. He owed me. "I have a story," I told him. "One that involves fraud, organized networks, and a man who thought his wife would never find out." He didn't hesitate. "Send me what you have. I'll verify it quietly. If it checks out, we publish." For the first time in weeks, I felt control trickle back into my veins. That afternoon, Leah and I returned to the storage unit. This time, we weren't looking to confront, we were documenting. She filmed every box, every page, every stack of cash, narrating details as we went. I wore gloves, careful not to disturb anything. By the time we were done, we had a 30-minute video cataloging the contents of 14B. We uploaded copies to 3 drives, storing them in separate places. I wasn't reckless enough to think this made me safe. But now, if anyone tried to silence me, they couldn't silence the truth. That night, Daniel called again. I let it ring, then sent a single text: "Stop calling. You'll hear from my lawyer, **." The reply came instantly: "Ava, don't do this. You'll regret it, **." My hands trembled, but I forced myself to type back: "Not as much as you will." Leah watched me hit send. You're baiting him. I'm warning him, I said. For once, he needs to feel the weight of someone else's choice. But even as I spoke, a chill lingered. Because Daniel wasn't just a cheating husband anymore. He was a man cornered. And cornered men lash out. That fear proved right at 2 a.m. I woke to the sound of glass shattering. Leah was already out of bed, baseball bat in hand, her instincts faster than mine. I grabbed my phone and hit record as footsteps creaked across the living room floor. We crouched in the hallway, the air sharp with adrenaline. A shadow passed across the wall, tall, deliberate. Whoever it was, they weren't here to steal a television. They were here for me. Leah raised the bat, but the figure retreated as quickly as it came. A door slammed, an engine roared, and by the time we reached the porch, the car was gone. Only the broken window remained, cold air bleeding into the night. On my phone screen, the recording shook but clear enough to show the shadow of a man retreating. His gait was familiar. Too familiar. Leah looked at me, her eyes hard. That was him, wasn't it? My throat was tight, but I nodded. Daniel had crossed the line. He wasn't just lying. He wasn't just hiding. He was threatening. And now, I had no choice but to strike back harder. Because the next move would not just be about survival. It would be about revenge. The broken window glared at me in the morning light, shards of glass like frozen raindrops scattered across the hardwood. I swept them into a pile with shaking hands, but the trembling didn't stop. Daniel had been here. My husband, my betrayer, had crossed the threshold not with apologies or explanations, but with intimidation. It was no longer just about lies. It was about control. Leah stood nearby, phone to her ear. She was filing the report with the police, her voice calm but clipped. When she hung up, she gave me a look I knew too well, the one she used when she thought I was underestimating the danger. They'll send a patrol car, she said. But let's not kid ourselves. If Daniel's tied to people with money and power, the police are just window dressing. I sank into the couch, my body heavy but my mind racing. He wanted me afraid. He wanted me to retreat. And for a moment, I almost had. But the thought of that black duffel bag full of cash, of the notebooks, the fake passports, all of it pulsed in my mind like a heartbeat. I couldn't back down. Not when I had enough to ruin him. Jonah, the journalist, called an hour later. His voice buzzed with energy. Ava, I've looked over the files you sent. This isn't small-time fraud. These are shell companies tied to offshore accounts. Some of these names have connections to contractors bidding on government projects. If you're right, your husband isn't just skimming, he's part of a laundering network. The room tilted. Laundering. The word sounded heavier than infidelity, heavier than betrayal. It sounded like crime with no boundaries, like the kind of people who made people vanish. I'll need more, Jonah continued. The video helps, but I need first-hand confirmation. If you can get him on record, anything, calls, texts, meetings, we can protect you with exposure. The bigger the story, the harder it is to bury. The idea struck like lightning. Daniel had always thought he was the smartest man in the room, that his voice carried authority. What if I could turn that arrogance into a weapon? What if I could make him hand me the rope that would hang him? I spent the rest of the day planning. Leah called it reckless. I called it necessary. The trap had to be perfect, a meeting Daniel couldn't refuse, a conversation that would feed directly into evidence, a way to make his lies bind him tighter than any court could. I texted him at dusk. Meet me. One last time. If you want to explain yourself, if you want me to even consider walking away quietly, this is your chance, The reply came within minutes. When and where? I picked a neutral ground, a co-working space downtown that rented private rooms by the hour. Public enough that he wouldn't try anything violent. Private enough that my recorder could capture everything. I booked the room under a fake name, set up my phone with a hidden recording app, and placed a small microphone in my purse. Every word he spoke would be mine to use. Leah drove me there, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. If he suspects. He won't, I said, more confident than I felt. He thinks I'm still broken. He thinks he can talk his way out like he always has. At 8 o'clock sharp, Daniel walked in. He looked worn, his suit rumpled, but his eyes still carried that flicker of calculation, the glint of a man who believed he could still win. "Ava," he said, sitting across from me. "Thank you for this chance." I forced my voice calm. "I need the truth. All of it. Start with Sable Ridge." His eyes darted, then settled. He exhaled slowly, as if rehearsing his confession. "It started small. I created the company to move money around without drawing attention. Just temporary, I thought. Then they noticed. The network. People who watch for opportunities. They pulled me in deeper, told me if I wanted out, I'd better make sure no one could trace the money back." His words poured like poison. I asked questions softly, each one designed to push him deeper. Names, amounts, deals. He didn't give everything, but he gave enough. Enough to tie him directly to the fraud. Enough to prove the threats weren't paranoia. "You don't understand," he said finally, leaning forward, his voice dropping. "These people, they don't forgive. If they know you're involved, you'll never be free. That's why I kept you in the dark. To protect you." My laugh was hollow. "Protect me? You walked into Maya's house while I was in a hospital bed. You laundered money behind my back. You put me in danger without asking if I wanted protection. That's not love, Daniel. That's cowardice." His jaw clenched. "So what, Ava? You want to ruin me? You think you can survive without me? You think the courts or the press will keep you safe? They won't. If you push this, they'll come for you, too." I held his gaze, my pulse steady. "Maybe. But here's the difference, you already gave me everything I need. And if anything happens to me, the whole world will know it was you." For the first time, Daniel's mask cracked. Fear flashed across his face, then hardened into something darker. "You think you're clever," he muttered. "But you've underestimated how deep this goes." He stood abruptly and walked out, leaving me with the hum of the empty room and the steady red light on my recorder. I sat there, shaking, replaying every word in my head. He had confessed enough to bury himself. But the way he left, the menace in his tone, told me this wasn't over. When I returned to the car, Leo looked at me, eyes wide. "Well?" I clutched my phone, the recording safe inside. "He thinks he scared me into silence. But he just gave me the weapon I needed." Leah exhaled, a mix of relief and dread. "Then the only question left is how you're going to use it." The answer lingered at the edge of my tongue, but before I could speak, my phone buzzed with a new message. This time, not from Daniel. It was a video file. Shaky footage of me sitting in that very room, talking to him. Someone else had recorded us. Beneath it, a single line, "You're not the only one collecting evidence." The video file played on my phone, my own voice echoing back at me, distorted by poor audio. It was surreal, watching myself in that room, demanding answers, while realizing someone else had been close enough to record everything. They hadn't sent it to expose me. They'd sent it to remind me that I wasn't the only one holding cards. Leo leaned over my shoulder, her face pale in the glow of the screen. "They were inside that building," she whispered. "They were close enough to see you, to hear you. Ava, they're not just watching. They're documenting. Insurance. My stomach turned. Insurance. The word had a sharpness to it now, as if my life had become collateral in a ledger I never agreed to. Another message arrived seconds later. Asterisk, stay silent. Or your tape goes public too, asterisk. I read it 3 times, anger mounting with each pass. They thought they could scare me by threatening exposure. They didn't realize something yet. I had nothing to lose. Daniel was the one drowning in fraud, lies, and betrayal. I was the one pulling myself out of the wreckage. They're bluffing, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Or they're not, Leah countered. Either way, they're telling you you're in the game now, whether you want to be or not. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in Leah's guest room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the black SUV, the broken window, the shadow in the house. They weren't ghosts, they were men with money and power who thrived in the dark. And now, I had walked into their light. By morning, I made a decision. If they were recording me, then I had to record them back. I wouldn't just play defense. I would flip the board. First, I met with Angela, the lawyer. Her office was sleek, lined with books that smelled of authority. She listened silently as I laid everything out, the storage locker, the cash, the fake passports, the notebook, the threats, the video. When I finished, her expression didn't flicker. You're in deep, she said finally. But you're not powerless. Divorce is straightforward once we document separation of assets. Fraud is trickier. If you want protection, you need to expose this carefully. The press is a shield. Once it's public, they can't silence you without drawing more attention. Her words struck me. The press is a shield. Jonah as my weapon. Daniel's confession as the nail in the coffin. When I left her office, I texted Jonah, asterisk, I've got something stronger. A direct confession. But I need to know you can protect me if this goes out, asterisk. He replied in less than a minute, asterisk, if it's real, we publish. No one touches you once the world is watching, asterisk. I clung to that promise like a lifeline. That evening, Daniel called again. Against Leah's protests, I answered. His voice was strained, like a man running out of places to hide. Ava, I know they've contacted you. Whatever they showed you, it's nothing. Don't trust them. Why not? I asked coldly. Because they make better record keepers than you. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. If you keep pushing, Ava, you won't just ruin me. You'll ruin yourself. They don't care who they burn. I almost laughed. You already ruined me, Daniel. They're just late to the party. I hung up before he could answer. Later that night, a new video arrived. This time, it wasn't of me. It was of Daniel, sitting in a different cafe, speaking urgently to a man I didn't recognize. The audio was muffled, but I caught fragments, payments, keep her quiet, deadline. The watchers weren't bluffing. They were pulling strings on both sides. And now, they had given me something I hadn't expected, proof that Daniel was as afraid of them as he was of me. Leah studied the video, her jaw tight. They're not just threatening. They're testing you. They want to see if you'll fold, or if you'll fight. I looked at the screen again, at Daniel's hunched shoulders, his nervous hands. He wasn't the man I married anymore. He was a pawn, and pawns are disposable. They think I'll fold, I whispered. They don't know me at all. The next morning, I called Jonah again. Be ready, I told him. Because when I move, it won't be quiet. That night, another message came. No words this time, just a photo. Me, again. standing by the window of Leah's house, looking out into the dark. And beneath it, a new line of text appeared a moment later, tomorrow. We settle this, The message glared on my screen, tomorrow. We settle this. I stared at it until the words blurred, my pulse thudding in my ears. Tomorrow. A promise or a threat? Maybe both. Leah paced the living room, her face tight with fury. They're forcing your hand. If you wait, you'll be reacting on their terms. You can't afford that. She was right. For weeks I had been clawing at the edges of the truth, but now the storm was at my door. It was time to stop reacting. It was time to strike. By dawn, the plan was set. Jonah would publish at noon. He had all of it, the video of Daniel's confession, the photos of the storage locker, the notebook scans, the shell company invoices. Angela, my lawyer, would file for divorce and notify Daniel's firm the same day. By the time he looked up from his phone, the world would know who he really was. But I wanted one last thing, his face when he realized he had lost. I texted him at 8 a.m. Meet me at the Riverlock locker. Alone. This ends today, His reply was instant. Finally. Leah insisted on coming, but I told her to wait 2 blocks away, engine running, phone in hand. If I wasn't out in 30 minutes, she'd call Jonah and the police. The storage lot was empty when I arrived. I stood in front of 14B, my heart pounding, my phone recording every second. Daniel's car pulled up 10 minutes later. He stepped out, shoulders hunched, eyes darting. He looked less like the man who once walked down the aisle with me and more like the cornered animal I had seen in the cafe. Ava, he said, his voice sharp. Why here? Because this is where it all began, I said evenly. The lies. The money. The secrets. I wanted you to see what's going to bury you. He smirked, but it was brittle. You don't understand. You think you can walk into this world and survive. You can't. These people. I don't care about them, I cut in. I care about you. And I want you to know something before it happens. Jonah has everything. Angela has everything. If I disappear, if I even miss a check-in, the files go public worldwide. You're finished, Daniel. Your friends are finished. You can't silence me anymore. For a moment, he just stared. Then his face twisted, the mask shattering. You think you've won, he spat. You're nothing without me. You were always nothing without me. I stepped closer, my voice calm. Then why are you the one shaking? His hands curled into fists. For a heartbeat, I thought he might strike me. But instead, headlights swept across the lot. A black SUV rolled in, identical to the one that had shadowed us before. The doors opened. 2 men stepped out, suits too neat for their surroundings. One carried a briefcase, the other nothing at all. Their eyes landed on Daniel first, then me. You brought her, one said coldly. Daniel froze. She's with me. I'll handle her. The man shook his head slowly. No, Daniel. You won't. My blood chilled. They weren't here to help him. They were here to clean up. I raised my phone high, the red recording light glowing. If anything happens to me, I said loudly, my voice echoing in the metal walls, this goes live. Every single file, every single word. You'll all be exposed. The man with the briefcase smirked. Smart woman. He glanced at Daniel. Smarter than you. Daniel's face drained of color. No, wait, I can fix this, I can. But the men were already walking back to their SUV. One paused, glancing at me again. You've made yourself a problem. Problems get attention. But sometimes, problems also solve themselves. Then they were gone, the SUV disappearing down the street as quickly as it came. Silence fell heavy. Daniel sank to his knees, sweat beading on his forehead. You don't know what you've done, he whispered. They'll come back. I looked down at him, the man who once promised forever, now broken by his own lies. Maybe they will, I said quietly. But when they do, they'll find you first. I turned and walked away, the storage locker door slamming shut behind me. Leah's car waited at the curb, engine running, her face pale but steady. At noon, Jonah's article went live. Headlines screamed across every platform: fraud, shell companies, criminal networks. Daniel's name was everywhere. His face, once charming, now synonymous with corruption. By evening, the police had searched the locker. The cash, the passports, the notebook, all catalogued as evidence. Arrest warrants followed. And as I sat in Leah's kitchen, the rain falling softly outside, my phone buzzed with one last message. Not from Daniel. From an unknown number. Asterisk, you wanted war. Now you have it, asterisk. I stared at the screen, my breath catching. Revenge had been mine, but peace was still far away. Because the reckoning wasn't over. It had only begun.